Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'll call the Budget, Finance, and Investment Committee to order. We have two sets of minutes to approve, minutes from our May 15th and May 16th meeting.
Motion to approve both.
Thank you, Commissioner Jones.
Second motion.
Second by Commissioner Sanders. Any additions or corrections? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. And the main purpose of our meeting tonight is to review the budgets for the schools. So I will ask Director Gill to join us. Mr. Sandy. And gentlemen, we had, of course, our joint meeting with the Health and Ed Committee, the Budget Committee, and the Board of Education on May the 22nd. And before the committee meeting, the board had a short business meeting of their own. And the director presented a list of cuts to what was previously proposed, which amounted to $1.4 million, which resulted in a recommended motion from the school board to approve the 2012-2013 general purpose school budget of $279,680,771. And that is what was also approved by the Health and Ed, and that has been forwarded to us at this point. Did you bring, do we all have our packet of things from that meeting?
I don't have that sheet, but they've got new budget.
You have it there?
Budget's in the book.
Okay, or in your book?
Number 12.
Okay.
I brought copies of the summary sheet of those cuts, if anyone would like those.
Okay.
But everything else should be in your packets.
Okay. Oh, so you need that? Yes, Elaine needs a copy of that. Okay, so if we are in section 13 of our notebooks, we will begin, Mr. Sandy and Director Gill, with the Central Cafeteria Fund.
The budget that we have presented for the centralized cafeteria fund has $17,733,200 in revenue and a total of $18,033,200 in expenditures for a net deficit, net reduction in fund balance of $300,000. And this budget is different than our others. We have a maximum fund balance to aim for, and that's why we are proposing to use that $300,000. Excuse me.
Gentlemen, when you are ready, I will entertain a motion on the centralized cafeteria fund.
That's $18,033,000, right?
Correct. Yes.
Motion to approve.
Thank you, Commissioner Sandlin.
No second.
And seconded by Commissioner Schaefer.
So what this one is you're anticipating on making a gain this year, during the year.
We tend to, yes, Commissioner.
This fund is kept separately, where you spend these dollars within that cafeteria fund, I total it,
Right.
include anywhere.
Right. That is one of the requirements.
And I'll comment on how much I think a good idea is what we've done the last several years, having a joint meeting with this committee, the Health Next Committee, and the school board. Because if anybody's watching on TV, we spent a couple hours or more last week going over this. So it isn't like we're just sitting here voting for 18 million and 280 million in a few minutes without even looking at it. We've been through this piece by piece, and if, instead of you guys having to go over it with every individual group, put us all in one room at once and do it, and it works real well.
Excuse me though, Commissioner, it was only 279 million or something.
Yeah, just do it, it'll get that big.
Any further discussion on a central cafeteria fund?
Does that affect The plumbing thing that we talked about at all, it doesn't affect it at all, this cafeteria fund?
Well, let me take that back. Is any work, we're not doing any work in the cafeteria, yeah, we are.
There will be some
Yeah.
sinks that will change out.
But those lines have to come through
Hey, you
these
know
and
that.
stuff.
We were just including in the overall project.
Any other discussion or questions? All in favor, please say aye. Opposed? Thank you. Section 14, gentlemen. Education Capital Projects Fund. That is that Fund 177. Did you make copies for that, on that one?
I thought we disseminated that last time.
Oh,
You got
we
that?
have,
You do have this sometime.
We have it in our packets.
No, that, the list of projects, we don't have.
Well, I think it went over it though, didn't it?
We went
Yeah,
over
I
it.
mean, I'm certainly can go over it now. If we need to make a copy.
I didn't make, we do, try to keep that in the budget book.
Okay. How about if I just give this to you?
That would be
No problem solver.
You are.
You ready?
yes,
Okay.
yes, Fund 177.
We have $2,321,085 worth of proposed capital improvements. And we obviously prioritize those each year with respect to what's gotta be done and what's needed most. This year, we have 3 separate roofing projects. Last Casas Elementary for $715,263. Smyrna Middle, $839,835. And Smyrna Primary, $95,987, for a total of $1,651,085. Also, there's some paving projects that are in the hopper. That's Wilson Elementary for $120,000, Central Office $40,000, Blackman High School $25,000, and Central Magnet $125,000 for $310,000. And at Las Casas Elementary sewer project $240,000, and then the Holloway window replacement $120,000 for a total of $2,321,085 for the entire project.
Does that finish Holloway up?
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
How's the restrooms in that school?
They're pretty good. I hadn't been there in a while,
I think those are some of the ones that have been redone, but I'm not certain, Commissioner. It's my recollection.
When does the next time you would imagine that we're gonna have to do some major renovations on some of the existing schools?
Well, we've been doing them
I know
quite a few
you
times.
were-
We got 2 that are right around the corner. You know where they are, Jeff?
Smyrna Primary is one.
And one that we had to delay one
Yeah.
year because of the roofing issues. We would've got to this year. Murder Primary. Is it Walden? No, we've done
I want
Walden.
to do some work at Roy Waldron to do the redo the entrance. Did we get that done already?
Yeah, we did.
We did all that?
We did a renovation of Walden. It's really an attractive school. They've done some good work. There's another school in the
There
area.
is.
I just can't recall which one.
But we're probably looking at that next year.
Yeah, I think that's, yeah. We actually voted on it as part of our building plan a couple of weeks ago.
What brought that up with me was I read about Metro's property tax hike. A lot of it is going because they haven't kept up with the older schools
Exactly.
and use it for
Mr. Rhodes, it may be David Urey.
It could be.
I mean, just not exactly, John.
2,380,027 is what he's got in total expenditure.
Okay.
2,380,027.
Yeah.
And revenue 2,374,702.
Yeah. Here,
Gentlemen, chair will entertain a motion for Fund 177, major capital projects.
What was the total again? Seemed like that too.
$2,321,085.
2,000,000.
Mm-hmm.
We've got 2,380,27.
Trustees Commission.
Yes.
So that's what we need to approve though.
Yeah, we need to approve 2,380,027.
So moved.
Thank you, Commissioner Sandlin, seconded by Commissioner Drakes. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Director Gill and Mr. Sandvik, however you want to deal with the general purpose school fund.
Well, I'd like to make a motion and just let you vote on it.
You just give revenues on revenue? Or we just-
No, that's what
It's all general purpose.
It's
We got
all general
revenue and
purpose. Just
expenditure.
need
Okay,
to
we're starting
decide.
off as, yeah.
Yes.
revenue. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Okay, as we said last time, and as everyone, you would have said, we were able to through the reduction of some positions, whittle 1.4 million off the budget, which brought it back to $279,680,771. Ms. Nolan, Mayor Burgess, Mr. Sandvik, and myself met last week and had a really positive meeting and found a way that we could fund it without any kind of tax increase, which I think is appealing to everyone. And as I stated all along, this budget is driven solely by increase in staffing, most of which was mandated by the state. Also an additional $2,500,000 contribution to insurance. And of course, anytime we give those kinds of raises, it benefits our piggyback right along. So that said, last year we had a budget of $267,244,552 as reflected on this sheet that you should have in front of you. And you'll see to the column on the left is what we're requesting this year, the $279,680,771. If you look out to the right, you'll see that the staffing increase this year is $8,288,946, or 5.1% over last year. Again, out of that line item, $4 million. How much is it? $4,726,551 is the state rate. We have no option with respect to whether we want to pay it or not. We have to. Of course, it's good to pay teachers more money. Next line, due to growth and also those raises, there'll be another $1,219,626 unavoidable dollars that'll go towards benefits. Third line, our medical contribution is going up by $2,531,107. And the other expenditure is $396,248 to cover other things like, buses, if there's any kind of increase in a particular line item for utilities. It just runs the gamut of what goes under those expenditures. Our equipment cost will be less this year, and then our contribution of debt service will be $116,581, an increase 11% over last year. So that accounts for the $12,436,219 increase in our budget request. And I think, as we discussed the other night, I think it was understood by all. I mean, we don't have any real flexibility there. If we could come down to the next line, reflected are the revenues. We anticipate our revenues being $270,428,015. That would be state, local, sales tax increase, property tax, which would put us $9,152,000 short of what we need to get to our budget request. We can fund $9,102,756 out of fund balance. But by doing that, it takes us down to, I think it's 3.13%. You know what you think, Lisa? Mayor? That gets us down low, and as I said last week, the danger there is our hope was to next year make sure we could open Stewart's Creek without tax increase, and that may jeopardize that, but as the mayor said, and Lisa said, you know, perhaps next year's gonna be a good year. We'll continue to build up fund balance, and we just have to deal with that next year if that is if that is even an issue. So, moving down to the next box, it's reflected our raises. The raise for certified will be, and step raises are part of that. They're required by the state. $4,726,551 certified raises, and the board wanted to give the classified folks the same percentage raise. And so the $330,600 to the left would have been unavoidable anyway, but that was $534,195 additional dollars for their raise, which brought all that to $5,626,259. And the bottom line shows what the state pays. I think this is pretty interesting. Out of the BEP state funding, they're gonna pay $2,595,542 for their mandated raise, and we have to pick up the balance of that, which is what, about $3 million out of local money.
So the classifieds are not within that state mandated raise?
No.
So that $500,000 is something that you're doing on your own?
Yes. Now, as we discussed the last time, let me just give you one other figure here, just so that everybody understands it. I think this really kind of tells you how hard we worked to get where there wasn't a tax increase for the property owners in this county. We're asking for $12,365,141 more dollars. That's $2,531,107 for insurance. Certified raises $5.5 million. Classified raise that's what benefits Jeff. $1,082,000, and others, which includes all our growth, openings, the beginning of the opening of Stewart's Creek with some positions, will be $3,243,925. Now, if you would, flip over to the next page, unless there are questions at this point.
Let's get going back to that opening Stewart's Creek part, that 3.2, right there, that's your bulk. It's not?
No, that's not open. Stewart's Creek will probably cost $4 million to open overall. That is for, like, I can answer that on the next page. Now, as we said, and again, these are additional mandates as a result of the American Diploma Project that the state required that we take part in. There's 9 new, actually there'll be 11, I'll flip them all in a second. There's 9 new high school math teachers that are going out to the high schools because we're required to offer a 4th unit of math to everybody. Now, in years past, it was 3, and we didn't need those 9 positions. But again, we have to employ those people, and we have to pay for them. There's no money other than what the state typically would pay for a teacher that's coming in.
You know,
So
they have
that-
to offer it, they have to earn that credit. Oh, I mean, they have to pass 4 years of math,
Yes.
not to be offered. They'd have to-
Yes, they have
I was
to
gonna
take
say, yeah, if they decide not to and you got 2 people in the class,
No,
that's not,
no,
yeah.
No,
they've gotta have
they're
4 years of
required,
math
yeah.
now.
Okay.
Yeah, they have to have 4 units of math to graduate.
So if a kid fails a math class, he's summer school or something, I mean,
Absolutely.
doubling up or something.
Absolutely.
What are their choices of math gonna be? I know Algebra 1, Algebra 2, and Geometry have to be, right?
Trig, man, what are all of them, Don?
Calculus.
Yeah,
There's
geometry
other
one
choices
of
like
them.
that, statistics and all. Bridge math would probably be the students that have not been taking the math, which is very similar to, usually when you go to college, they would have a remedial program. They really push that back down to the high schools. So it's basically a bridge math type program. It's a combination.
So they're not gonna have to take trig or pre-calculus necessarily, but they're gonna have to take both algebras and trig, and geometry.
Yes.
Since students are
At the same
taking,
time, we gotta increase the graduation rate.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
since students are taking more math courses, are they taking fewer courses in other subject areas?
Actually, they increased the amount of credits required to graduate too, from 20 was minimum up to 22. We require 23, but we now offer 7 periods per year, which is a total of 28. So they get 5 opportunities to miss whereas somebody, Steve said, or Will said, they'll end up in summer school.
A lot of
Did-
kids take a study hall though,
Yeah.
that's a class gone with no credit, right?
Oh, yeah. But you also said we budgeted 4 additional chemistry teachers. They're required to take chemistry, 4.5 ESL. The state lowered the per pupil teacher ratio for ESL, English was second language, 45 to 40 to 1, so that costs us more money. And again, these are all unaffordable, we can't do anything about it. Now, we have, at schools with a higher free reduced meal ratio, we're proposing or going to add 3 elementary intervention coaches at those schools, and we're cutting some other positions later on. I'll reflect that.
That would be in the high school level, though, not at the
No elementary.
middle. Oh, they would be at the
Yeah.
elementary?
Yeah. And then we budgeted for 36.5
Oh, it says elementary.
growth position. That's
I
right.
didn't see that.
And we budgeted somewhere around 1.5% growth, didn't we, Jeff?
And
Little above, yeah.
being comfortable with
Yeah.
it gets to,
So that's a total of $2,085,279.
Now, the 36.5, well,
That's new teacher positions for the district.
okay, so is that rolling in Stewart's Creek then, part of it?
But some of this stuff is in just a second.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, now also, we,
Let's stop right there, just
Okay,
one
sure.
second. Last year, the year we just finished, what did you project on growth in there? About the same?
again, we tried to be comfortable, we covered
Okay.
2
But,
or 10.
but you didn't hit, we only
Right.
had very few really.
1.5.
For-
1.6.
What I'm getting at is you hired the teachers for your anticipation, is that correct? Right?
We hire them if we need
What-
them.
Yeah.
Do we not?
Yeah. Now, if it comes out lower than that, do you just take that into account the next year, that you don't have to hire as many? Because you've got some that should cover some of that that's going there.
With any fund balance. comes,
So
you know,
that's
you don't
still-
hire
I
a
would
teacher.
remind you, I mean, there's, Mr. Odom and Ms. Barnes and myself work on teacher dissemination allocation. Ultimately, the superintendent has to file say-so on it. And in almost every case, our schools are at the cap for pupil-teacher ratio. You know, we don't have the luxury of whittling down the numbers because we don't have the pool of teachers to do that, one. And secondly, all our schools are at capacity. There are no rooms. There's really not anywhere to put them. I mean, it'd be nice if we could go into, one of the high poverty elementary schools and give them 3 or 4 more teachers, so we could reduce the number, and we could do some double dosing and do some interventions and do those kind of things, but we don't. But when we budget this, we try to hit it on the mark, and there may be a case or two where we try to help a school out that's a struggling school, if we see we have that opportunity at the end of the day. So, but we also had, we signed both the alternative schools need additional math teacher, because those kids need their 4th math teacher up there in the alternative school. All right, the next 2 lines show a reduction of a behavior specialist, autism specialist, compliance liaison. We're moving that to IDEA. It'll be funded federally. And the next line, speech and language teachers, it'll be funded out of IDEA. But one of these days, we'll have to pick that up out of local money. But that's a good thing for now. Also, there's a $105,084. Every time it's in parentheses, it's reflecting a cut. There's $105,084 vocational ed teacher eliminated based on per pupil teacher ratio. That sheet we gave you a while ago showed the way we were able to whittle our budget down by $1.4 million. Now here's where we get Mr. Sandler, Commissioner Sadler. 2 guidance counselors that will work partial years at Stewart's Creek High School. And then there'll be 16%, part of our safety test position in Title II has moved to GPS, $10,000, $707 worth. Also, we'll employ Stewart's Creek High School librarian for 10 startup days. We also reduced by 1 school technology specialist position that was deleted, and 1 central office position coding changed. That saved us $122,098. We also moving 2 school sites and special ed to the IDEA for them to be funded there. That saved us another $106,000.
Just a second right there.
Okay.
You're talking about almost $400,000 that is going to IDEA. You said we're going to have to pick up that tab here.
Eventually, yeah.
Like, I mean, is that a 3-year program or a 2-year program, or is it just like when they cut the funds off, we got to
We
pick
know
it
it's
up?
1 year.
Oh, it's 1 year, yeah.
1 year in the next September.
You just keep doing that until you can. Okay.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
exactly. Next, you got Stewart's Creek High School partial year for the principal and 2 assistant principals. Principal starts in January, and the assistant principals soon after. I don't remember the exact date. Next, assistant principals meet. We really desperately need to add more assistant principals in the district. We haven't added many in a while. We have a lot of schools that really don't, you know, the old Southern Association of College Schools. You had to meet their particular guidelines with respect to employees. Like if you got a school with 1,000, you're supposed to have a principal and 2 assistant principals or 2.5. We haven't always met that the last few years because of funding issues. We put 3 in there, and most of them, I think we decided we'd split them between 6 different schools, just to kind of get back, get the principal where he or she can do their job. So that's in there. We eliminated the 5 halftime evaluators that we did last year due to the reduction in the number of times a teacher will have to be evaluated. Central office school technology specialist position, coding was changed.
Tell me about that, I'm sorry, that evaluator thing. That's all been reduced to how? Is it
We
once?
just cut them out, we cut the positions.
But I mean the evaluation part itself.
The principals, the administrators will just handle it
Okay.
themselves.
Okay.
Yeah.
But these are the ones you put in last year when you
Yeah, to
had
help
6
out.
for new teachers or
Yes.
whatever they had to
6,
get.
yeah, 6 for new. and 4
They
for
backed
original.
off on the guidelines about
Yeah.
how
They did, they
many.
reduced it considerably, which they should have. Okay, so that reflects, what I've just gone over reflects 51.3.
Years experience evaluating
additional
stuff.
positions,
Sorry.
even after the cuts and after the increases, a total of $1,841,598. And when you factor in the FICA, Medicare, retirement, and insurance for the new certified staff, that's $2,587,764. And the next page, I can go over these, or you can look at them. Once you look at them, if you got any questions, I'll be willing to answer those.
I just have a general question about your unassigned fund balance. The sheet we got the other night had a estimated beginning assigned fund balance of 18 million. In our books, which we received sometime earlier on page 17 and perhaps elsewhere, the estimated unassigned fund balance was 17 million. I guess this is good news that it went up by $1 million, but I was wondering if what the explanation was for why it did go up by $1 million.
We just,
Gross expenditures, except for stuff we have to finish this year or
Between when we got our notebook and when we met last.
We needed another $1 million.
Well, we needed another $1 million, but we discovered that the balance in that fund actually went up by $1 million. So
Well, and what it is just a reevaluation. Again, it's like, can we go back and look at all the revenues that we have? What expenses do you think that we really won't spend?
Mhm.
It's just another harder look. If you think you could squeeze it, you feel comfortable squeezing another $1 million, you think we'll get it.
Mhm.
and as Mr. Sammy said, we put a freeze on spending. When we circulated the memo, there are a couple other things that we also required, and I think that helped us generate another $1 million.
And I'll be doing the same thing again to see if there's anything else that we could possibly improve ours. The other thing that we did is the last month looked really good on sales tax, so we adjusted the sales tax estimate for schools by $1 million. So with their cuts, the improvement of fund balance estimate, and the increase of sales tax is where we got down to and to make it work.
What did y'all say our growth was in students this last time?
1.5 to 1.6%.
Not very much.
I got a couple of questions. Should I give you an attaboy first, or something I was pleased to see when I went through there? Honest.
I just want you to be happy, so whatever. You wanna give me an attaboy?
All right, well, I was pleased when I went through and I saw the water and sewer project, and this coming year's budget is $126,000 less than what the budget for water and sewer was last year, so you're taking into account it's gonna be there. Plus, I looked at the natural gas and the electricity also, and they are the same as last year, so you're counting on, we haven't added schools, and they haven't raised the rates, it, hopefully.
We were looking $250-some thousand gas.
Out of gas.
Out of gas, yeah.
To cover fuel.
But then I have a couple more questions.
All right.
One, campus school, is it doing away with sixth grade?
Yes.
What's happening to the sixth grade
This
teachers?
is sixth grade, well, they'll be reassigned.
Yeah, okay, just to another school?
They just do them.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess.
Two people.
And actually, I think
150
next year's
for-
sixth grade enrollment was, some of those kids are going to the magnet school,
Mhm.
which is
Some
cost.
will always have left to go to the middle schools for sports
Yeah.
opportunities.
So there's really not enough to support two classes of sixth graders, and partially what led to it.
Mhm. Okay. And half of those kids were city from the Murfreesboro city anyhow, weren't they?
I'm sure they were,
I think
yeah.
they were generally around.
We're
Okay.
full boat now, right? Or
Where?
over here?
Campus?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, they're full.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I mean, all grades, because we were rolling that in. I mean, this.
Well, they're it'll be K-5 next year, but there's all classes are full, and there's a waiting list.
The magnet schools,
You're
what
thinking
is
of
that?
Central
No, I'm thinking
Magnet.
Central Magnet.
Central
Central
Magnet.
Magnet,
Oh,
are waiting all the way up.
Yeah, they're
Yes.
full, that is a very
Coveted
coveted
They're
seat.
11th grade this coming year, are they not? And then 12th
12th
grade.
grade next year.
That's
Yeah.
what I'm talking
Yeah,
about.
they're 11th
12th
grade.
is done, their 11th comes on
Are they
this
currently
fall.
11th grade this year?
They are, but there's about 70 students, and so
Yeah.
that'll change. Their cap is about 1,200, and they're gonna be 11 something next year.
But I know the lower grades are all waiting list only, but that first few years.
They'll have their first graduating class in June of 2013 or May of 2013.
Exactly.
So 12 will start next
Okay.
year.
You have the
No,
the
this-
STAR system that the
This fall.
state
This fall.
forced down us a
Yes.
couple years ago. And now, it's just, my understanding is that it's just does everything, or is supposed to do everything. Is that the better way to put it?
Supposed to
And
try.
now, I'm just curious, and does this, if it goes down or something like that, I guess our system is responsible for repairing it. Nothing comes from the state to repair it, to get it back online or whatever, and does that?
What's the status of that?
The server for that is in Nashville.
Yeah.
And they've been supporting that. So the state, because we've got so many districts in the state that are using it, they support the software piece of it. But we're very fortunate that we're not having to maintain that server.
Okay, so
It's in
what I
Nashville.
was getting at is when it goes down or something and we can't, so we have no way to do some part of it, we're not getting hurt financially from ourselves, except that we just can't, whoever it is that needs
Periodically,
something.
They do have issues where we can't work on it. It's not down low.
I
You
get
get somebody's attention pretty quickly, I see, about this handling the whole state.
Yeah.
I get one more question, and this is, in middle school, I don't think it'll probably come into play as much, so I'll just ask it for high school. But certified teachers, or teachers that eventually will be certified, they're doing a job, whatever, what percentage of them in high school would teach 75% of their time teaching a class or more?
So you're asking, do they have multiple training periods?
Yeah, that type thing, or openings and that, and
There
I'm just,
are, two things come out. Mr. Odom and I circulated a memo to the high school principals about 3 or 4 weeks ago, and I said, listen, we don't have the luxury of having people with 2 or 3 planning periods, even though those guys are generally doing some kind of supervisory role, either in the cafeteria, the hallways. I mean, you know, first of all, these schools all got 2,000 kids, and they need some help beyond the administration to do those kind of duties.
Mhm.
But we told them that we wanted to see everybody's schedule. We want to work towards everybody having one planning period. If there's more than one, we want to know about it, and we want it justified. Secondly, we asked the principals to look at their enrollments. You know, I mean, those are big schools with 150, 155, 160 teachers in them.
Mhm.
And, you know, see if there's a way to whittle your staff down some. It could save us some. And matter of fact, Riverdale, we cut 3 positions there. We cut some positions in other places. But the short answer is, I can't tell you exactly how many of those are taking place where there's somebody with multiple plan periods, but I can tell you that they're not just walking around the school twiddling their thumbs. I mean, they're assigned some kind of responsibility, and we are really working towards getting that under better control.
Okay.
A few minutes ago, you said growth was, in this current, the past year was 1.5, 1.6%. That doesn't sound like much, but that's still 600 plus students.
Yeah.
That's still a half a
40,000.
school.
Yeah.
You know, because 1.5% of a large number is still a large number.
County to get in 5, 6 years.
It's not like the good old days, we got 1,900 one
Yeah.
year and 1,700 the next year.
Okay.
I was being a little facetious there.
Well, I like the budget and what you're doing and being able to run actually our ending fund balance and pay for the needs that we have. What bothers me is next year, and we can't, you know, there was some talk about, I guess, at the budget meeting the other night at y'all's office. You know, when you look at a tax increase, a lot of the citizens, including myself, if you're looking at 5 cents, 10 cents, you know, I'd like to have it split and do a little bit this year and do a little bit next year. But I don't think we need to do a tax increase this year when we can come off of any fund balance and pay for our immediate needs. And then if we have to adjust, then we have to adjust when we have to adjust. We just hope that it's, you know, not going to be an unbearable time frame. And we're hoping that all the revenues will come back in, you know, higher, and we're hoping that that y'all can steadfast and new superintendent coming on board can, you know, lead the charge as well as and do a great job as like you always have. And we appreciate you, I do, of going in and making the cuts necessary. And unfunded mandates are unfunded mandates. Whenever they come and whatever department they hit, we have to do them. So all we can do is yell at our representatives and tell them watch that, you know, and not do that. That kind of hits a brick wall, so
Yeah.
it don't do any good. But we feel better by telling them anyway. But I appreciate the
They
hard
don't
work that
even
you've
know
done
it.
and are doing. I just hope we can, when we get ready to open Sturts Creek next year and the other things that we're having to do, that we can come in and hopefully not have to have a property tax increase. And I know y'all do all y'all can do to prevent that as well, so. With that, I'm gonna put a motion on the floor that we approve your, let's see. 279, 680, 771.
Yes.
Second. And I echo Commissioner's sentiments, and, you know, I had quite a few questions that I'd looked through and found, and to me, they had satisfactory answers. I'm sure you could just up and say, well, we could make it 200,000 less, but you had rationale for everything you did, so I'm fine.
Nice turnkey. Nice turnkey.
There's anything to lock in here.
Okay.
Well, you know, and the folks like you said a while ago, maybe watching the first time and looking at a budget and say, man, they passed that in a heartbeat. But, you know, there's a lot of time in the Health and Ed Committee as well as school board. They went through this before it even got to Health and Ed, before it even got to budget. So there's a lot of tweaking that went on and a lot of tough decisions to make to get it to there. But
And this is our third budget to see, I believe. This is the third packet I've had in the last month to go over, and the numbers have been evolving a little bit, you know, so it's not like we just saw this tonight when we walked in here.
Gentlemen, we do have a motion and a second. Any further discussion or questions? Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Baum?
Yes.
Commissioner Jernigan?
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan?
Yes.
Commissioner Sandlin?
Aye.
Commissioner Schaefer?
Yes.
Commissioner Ely?
Yes. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Gentlemen, under item E, review any budgets necessary. And I'm going to ask you to give me some guidance here. If you are comfortable, our finance director has a packet here where we can quickly review all of the departments, sort of as a quick overview. And if you are comfortable with us doing that, this could meet the requirements that we must have for publication. And we could do that tonight and would not need to have the meeting on Thursday. Would you like to, first of all, just go through this and just make sure you're comfortable with it? If we are not making any major changes, this is ready for publication. But if we are going to make some major changes, the finance office would need to know that.
One question I was going to ask is, over the course of the last couple of weeks, we have made a few changes.
She hasn't.
Right.
Yes.
And maybe she could, prior to those changes, we had about $100,000 to spare before some of these accounts fell below their required thresholds. I was wondering if she could just briefly walk us.
Shall we work our way through it, and then if we are not comfortable, we have that meeting scheduled on Thursday night, but if we can work through it, we can.
I'm comfortable talking about it tonight.
Okay.
I just was wondering if
Okay.
after all these changes, if we,
Kind of get us back where
Mhm.
are we today? Okay, so
What was
you,
our public hearing date that we're trying to shoot for?
The public hearing is June 18th, but we must get
It's gonna be in the paper.
we must get this public or in the newspaper on or before June 10th, and it's going to be the 10th.
Okay.
And our public hearing then would be on the 18th.
okay. The first sheet you've got is the penny, and the penny really hadn't changed. With the real and personal property at $5.9 billion, we have 21 million of tax-free properties, and estimated public utility property at 70 million. Those tax-free properties will generate about $500,000. Your next page kind of gives you a sum total of what all we've done. With the revenues, we added $31,313 for the law enforcement block grant, bringing our total to $72,401,611. You'll see down below that we also added in the expenses too for that grant. We reduced the register of deeds of $43,030 is what she did. And then the insurance premiums are our, not health insurance premiums, but they were the
Building contents and liability.
building contents and liability. Drug court, Mary Schneider revised her budget down $18,900. Again, there's that law enforcement block grant. We added $45,000 for the voluntary fire departments. I had one payroll correction done in building codes, which adds $1,585. So my total right now for appropriations is $76,033,828. With that, our 15%, we meet our 15% requirement with our fund balance coming in at $11,567,783. Our 15% on the next page, I've got that balance is $11,404,484.
So really, if you throw out the law enforcement block grant because it, just got approved? Is that?
It's revenue and expense. They've received it, they can't spend it this year, it needs
so
to be
it's
in
gone-
next year.
Okay, so really, that wasn't an increase as such.
No.
So we really came out about 27,000 less than the original budget that the mayor came with, right?
Oh, will you take that out?
Yeah, if you take out the law enforcement.
It's
I mean, for what we did here in the committee meetings.
it's $4 million increase over what we initially had there.
Well, no, I'm saying, but once we got.
76,029.
You ain't
Right
gonna
here,
take
from
it
here
out
to
though.
here. We didn't add much,
At $4,000.
4,000. But if you take, that's what he's saying, if you take that out,
Because
Decrease.
it was already there in last year's.
True.
Okay. But if I remember last year, it was listed about that long, if I'm not
it was a
mistaken.
very long page. I looked at that today on how many changes that we made.
Okay.
Yes, and thank you, because when we began at the beginning of this process, we sort of focused on working within the parameters of the mayor's recommendation, and thank you as a committee, we really stuck to that focus.
Okay, so again, Ms. Elaine is looking at all the revenues again, which she'll be bringing amendments at our next meeting. So we'll look again and take another snapshot to see can we improve any in our fund balance. You know, I'm gonna say this. There's very few counties that adopt their budget before June 30th, before we've closed. We work with a lot of estimates, and you hear the majority of them wait, and they're adopting budgets in August and September. So they've got one known where we work with, estimates, but we get it done. So I think y'all get it done. Pat yourself on the back for that. Okay, on page 6, what I call page 6, is Fund 116, and really you didn't make any changes on that. Okay, I know. I just want to see if you were paying attention. I kind of got off on my numbers there, okay?
We just need to know what was on page 5.
Well, but just make sure you're at the solid waste sanitation fund.
That says page 6.
Yes.
You didn't
This
have
is
to call
that
attention
page.
to that. Okay, 116, you didn't make any changes. So revenue at $2,707,500, appropriations $3,818,486, estimating beginning fund balance at $3,155,000, estimating ending at $2,044,000.
And of course, no property tax goes in that fund.
Right. Ambulance fund, I didn't move the numbers over, y'all haven't made any changes, but this was a place where you did have some flexibility if you wanted to make changes in the property tax. Or, just reminding that the ambulance service did ask for ambulances and we took them out to give you some flexibility. So, since you didn't make any changes, the revenue is $11,352,694, appropriations $10,637,880. Estimating the beginning assigned fund balance is $3,050,000. 8.29 cents goes in this fund. Fund 119, Economic Development, Industrial Economic Development Fund. Revenue of $24,698, appropriations of $243,777. This is the one that revenue will play out in a few years. Fund 121, this is the DEA, the Asset Forfeiture Fund, Special Purpose Fund, we call it 3 different things. But this is the one that if we were to close today, it would be $135,305 would roll into next year's, and we would keep it in the same lines as what they are in it today. Drug Control Fund, estimating revenue at $440,500, appropriation $638,600. Estimating fund balance at $339,575. With the ending estimated fund balance at $141,475. This is one fund, I want to talk about this one just a little bit, to try to think of some strategies with this one. If our fund balance ends better, we may have to do an advancement from the general fund into this fund, because there is a component of the revenue that's based on confiscated properties. If those confiscated properties don't come in timely to pay the payroll, that's why I'm saying that we may have to advance them some money. to make sure that
Give them
the
an
payroll's
incentive.
covered.
Put them on the incentive program, the more they confiscate, the better they get paid.
But anyway, I just,
It'd just be a timing issue.
it's a timing issue, and so I just
There might
probably
be
will
some
bring
profiling
in that,
in that.
recommendation probably come next time we meet in August.
On TV or something, rounding your bad self.
Especially day before payday, you know.
The Road and Bridge Fund, the Highway Department had recommended $7,732,316 in revenue. We did make some changes. We had already made some changes in the property tax after I had given Mary initial numbers. So there's a little improvement, plus we've made some changes on their sales tax and mineral severance. So bringing their estimated revenue at $7,808,442. Expenditures $9,378,799. Estimating their beginning assigned and committed fund balance at $5,023,272, which would end them up at $3,468,860.
And have you already factored in, done the computation on the maintenance of effort?
Yes, that's why we did, that's why I made those changes
Okay.
as we were going through.
Really, that's a general question throughout the budget as far as maintenance of effort. It's kind of looked at, it's a couple of years when we're in tougher times, we pop that word out quite often, when we're trying to.
It was a lot of discussion at the time when the state, the BEP2, and the schools received a lot of money, and then it's like, okay, well, they don't need all that, let's maintain our effort. So we really were looking at that. Okay, then the schools, you've already approved their budget, so if you look down the health and ed, I mean, we'll just roll those numbers over. This is what you've approved tonight. As is the cafeteria fund and the education capital projects. Kind of sums it up. Debt service, we didn't make any changes there. With revenue at $39,064,479, appropriations at $41,651,683. We're estimating our ending fund balance to be at 72%. That'll help us next year. I'm curious and use that next year. So, your last page is your estimated change in operations or in fund balance. So in total, beginning fund balance is at $83,881,892. Total revenues $424,042,341. Recommended appropriations $442,632,356. So revenues will be under our appropriations by $18,590,015. But that last column, you can see that we meet all our benchmarks.
Motion approved.
For publication.
Yes, for publication, Commissioner
Yes,
Jernigan, we are
ma'am.
aware this is for publication. This is what will be in the newspaper. Okay, we do have a motion. We need a second, gentlemen.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Commissioner Bob. And just in case you all are thinking, oh, we did this pretty quickly, I will tell you, if we do not need the meeting on Thursday, May, what is that? 31st. We will be able to discuss any part of this budget when we have our regularly scheduled budget meeting on June the 7th. We have the public hearing, of course, on June 18th, and then we have a meeting scheduled for after the public hearing, if you feel it necessary to discuss anything that is pertinent during the public hearing, before we even meet back to do the tax levy or the appropriations resolutions. So we do have several other meetings where we can look at any of these budgets that you might feel necessary.
I had a question. you mentioned a little bit of flexibility in the ambulance fund. I'm wondering if it would be, I'm just thinking out loud here, be smart to move a penny or something of that over in the school,
Oh, general fund.
or general fund or somewhere.
I mean, I guess you look at it, both funds were, both of us are
Well, that would
at.
help us next year, you know, in either fund, you know, and the ambulance fund is supposedly self-sufficient to a great, you know, and stuff, not completely, but it's supposed to be. But if we got that flexibility there, should we move some portion?
Probably
Jim,
gonna need
probably-
it next year.
Um,
Probably gonna need to move some next year.
I think that's what he's thinking, is go ahead and move in some of it
Ain't Back to me,
ahead of time.
We don't
Be
know
glad
exactly
you
which
got
one
it.
will need it most.
right.
Or
It
exactly
would,
how
it would
much.
help,
Okay.
it'd help build fund balance, neither one of those two budgets. But we can always wait till next year. But once we set this tax rate, that money's sitting over in the ambulance fund, and we can't bring that money back and stick it in the general fund or the school.
Okay, just thinking through, let's say it ends up with, and they end up with 3,000,007, or whatever it was I had. You-
3,764,000.
3,000,007, and next year, it does happen, let's say it does happen, and you think, okay, you don't really move that money, you just reduce the taxes that go in it next
Next year.
year.
They're gonna want those ambulances that didn't get this year, next year, though.
Well,
You
you're
can't
talking
wait,
about-
you can't wait forever.
You're only
Well,
talking
we
about
just-
$500,000, and
You'll
what
know
was,
the-
what was the total on the ambulances that you asked for? Wasn't it 700 and something thousand?
You'll know it.
Mm.
No, it wasn't that much.
It wasn't
It was
much.
only about
Cause he'll just
150.
tell you it does.
Right.
You
Three
can't
ambulances
keep
to
it
the
getting
family.
it. You
Most
tried
of
it.
it,
Yeah.
Was it just three? I thought it was.
Somebody said
But
three
anyway, I
while
guess I'm
ago.
saying,
They've
it
been
doesn't,
pretty
it
good having
really,
the family free
into
now
the
to move.
game
You can wait
doesn't
till
matter,
next
you
year
can
to
wait
do
till
that.
next
Yeah.
year.
Was it next year or the year after though that the debt gets critical?
Odd,
2 years in.
Yeah.
odd somehow, but, if the appraisals, what's the word?
Increase.
Increase, yeah, more than 2%, then or growth, not reappraisal, growth happens.
Well, the total valuations, if they grow.
Yeah, then, I had it
generate.
estimated at 2, so that would help us in debt service.
Commenting a little bit more on Commissioner Jordan's comment about the ambulance fund, I remember our first budget meeting of this fiscal year, we spent about $700,000 from the general fund's unassigned fund balance. I know a large portion of that was something we already knew we were gonna spend on vehicles, and so it wasn't a surprise at all. But I think what this does mean is we can't, in our very first budget meeting, spend $700,000 out of the unassigned fund balance. In
No.
fact, the total margin for the whole year is about $160,000. Over the remaining budget meetings last year, we ended up spending total of about 1.1 million out of the general fund's unassigned fund balance. Going into next year, we can't do anything like that. Again, the total cushion in there is about 160,000.
All right, now, when we meet together in August, we will have closed the books. Then we would have a better fund.
May look,
What do we really
could
have?
look a little better at that time, it might.
It will.
Right,
It'd be fine now.
But the fund balance, she will have maybe
hopefully better.
she will have a more accurate number then, and hopefully it'll be increased.
Ain't
And
gonna give you-
then you would know what your flexibility is for the rest of the year.
I don't think there's been a year in the 10 years I've been up there, we have hit general fund for as small as $100-something thousand and
Never.
other stuff. Never, because there's stuff that comes up, we just don't have any choice.
We just don't know.
So why not move a penny out of the ambulance system service right now?
Well,
Well, unless you wanna go by a thing, if we don't have it, we can't spend it.
We
But I
can't
think
do it.
there's a lot of stuff we don't have any choice. There could be lawsuits or whatever come down, utility bills, things can't
well,
cover.
we can move money from the ambulance fund without having to move the penny, can we not?
No,
Can I move the
Well,
balance
I-
that's already accrued there?
no.
Unless, the only way to move it is move it now before we set the tax rate for the next year.
You-
Or we're
you
waiting till
change-
next year to change the tax rate at that point in time.
Change the tax rate.
But it's in the ambulance, we've gotta
You need to
bottom
stay-
feed it out into their budget by underfunding it
Right.
and stuff, so that's what I'm saying. Once that penny gets approved into June,
But let's let's talk about worst
It's
case
there.
scenarios. What if, you adopt the budget as is, and something comes up, and it takes us below 15%, which is what we try to measure, then we have to address that the next budget cycle.
I guess we could still pay the bills.
And we'll still pay the bills, and we just have to, I mean, to me, that's what that 15%, we've got that base.
That's a ding on your rating, though. Is it
I
not?
don't think it's a ding if you address it. I think
Say
it's a
we're
bigger
gonna-
ding if we say, 15's not so good, let's make it 10. I think that's a worse thing.
I'd rather be proactive and address it on the front end.
The vehicles on the ambulance was 266.5. So that's as much as what I thought it was going to.
See, we bought, we've gotten about 5 in the last 2 years. We've got
Yeah.
3 or 4 last year.
There's some older model ones that were left over.
$400,000.
No,
They were
older,
demos
yeah.
or something, but
Discontinued.
they didn't have much.
And you got-
They were very similar to the brand new one.
Now, the health equipment that we pulled out, down to 15,000, that was those defibrillators and stuff he was talking about, 363,000, that was a big.
There was some
part, but
equipment that
We
came
are
with
a grant or
it.
something to get them, or
We're
something?
working
Working
on
on it.
on that even now.
Yeah, but we only funded 15,000 out of that. So you take 350,000 and 266 is about $600,000. Right there in those two things that he's gonna have to have, but I don't know how much the.
What is their fund balance? Is it 15%? Is
They
that
don't-
what it's
there's no
supposed to?
requirement.
They don't.
There's no requirement. Okay, so
It's a lot more than 15%.
yeah. well, we know.
3.7 million of a 10 million,
10.6,
10.8, so
yeah,
it's
10 point.
a 30-something percent.
No, this next year, it's only 10.6.
Yeah, we could save your new if not 2 pennies.
I know, because I was just thinking out loud, I mean, it's.
Always come back and do this. I mean, if this is okay for
Between-
publication, and then.
Between now and when we set the tax rate.
Well,
Yeah.
we can discuss it the next time we get together. We can
Sure.
think on it between now and then.
Or June 29th.
Because we could always put it into
Mr. Nunley's
the
headed
general
here
fund
next to
for
speak.
for judgments, right?
Well, I'll give the ambulance service credit where credit's due, is that I think going to this billing collection agency. Something
And I
that's
hate
happening
to take
in
away
their
from
bill.
somebody for doing a good job.
They always do a
They're-
good
they're-
job.
they're-
That's the reason I
they're
hate
tight with
punishing
their $1 million,
them.
so we're gonna reward them by taking some away from them. I mean, that's.
I see, I guess I'll look at it and say, they were able to not be as reliant on the tax rate because of their efforts. Gentlemen, any further discussion relative to the motion? This is the proposed budget for publication. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Opposed? Thank you. Gentlemen, I think we probably need to make a decision as a committee. We have published our budget in the Murfreesboro Post. Ms. Short, would you give us the numbers that you checked as far as the costs?
Yes. The Daily News Journal quoted $3,326.20 plus $25 for an affidavit charge if you request the affidavit. And the Post request quoted the same thing as they did last year, $1,260.
Most of that advertising post.
Second.
Commissioner Jordan, seconded by Commissioner Sutton. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
But we're saving, what, a little over $2,000?
Yes, we are.
On one item.
It is
Yes.
a publication to the public.
Anything else that we need to take care of at this meeting
And we
tonight?
have officially canceled Thursday night's meeting.
Oh, thank you. The meeting on Thursday night is canceled, yes. No meeting Thursday night, May 31st.
So our next budget meeting next Thursday night, the 7th.
Right.
31st.
So
31st.
May 31st is canceled.
So we saved $150.
And so the next meeting will be
We
our
paid for
regularly
the post.
scheduled budget meeting, yes.
Right.
Gentlemen, anything else that needs to come before our committee? Thank you very much. We are adjourned.